kids. Good morning or good afternoon. It's me again, teacher Tina. Today is Science 3. So, before we start, please get your workbook and textbook. So, are you ready, kids? Okay, let's start. Please open your workbook. Workbook page number 33 and 34. And for textbook, please open your textbook page 56 and 57. Okay, so let's start. So today, our topic is about types of force. So we have different types of force. We have a friction force, gravity force, applied force, spring force, drag force, normal force, magnetic force, electric force. So that are the types of force. But this type of force, we have a two category. There are two category. So this two is, again, types of force is friction force, gravity force, applied force, spring force, drag force, normal force, magnetic force, electric force. So we have two category of types of force. So this is, do you call that type of forces? Type of forces. So we have two types of forces. Number one is contact forces, and number two is non-contact forces. So we will explain the number one, contact forces. So what is contact forces? Contact forces are the forces acting between two objects. Means two objects. One, two. Two objects that are physically touching each other. Means touching is touch the object. So number two is non-contact forces. So what is non-contact forces? Non-contact forces are forces that are applied on object without any physical contact between them. So example, this is object. So without physical, no touch. Contact forces touching each other. Non-contact forces without any physical contact. So don't touch. No touching without touching physical contact. So that is the difference between contact forces, non-contact forces. Again, contact forces is touch each other. Non-contact forces is no touching without any physical contact to your physical. Okay. Next. So these are example of contact forces. These are example contact forces. So number one is here. So number one is, imagine this is cart. This is the cart. So this is the cart. So push a shopping cart. We are touching. For example, this is the shopping cart. Then when I push the shopping cart, this is touching. So they have a touching to each other. So do you call that? These are example of contact forces. So when you push the shopping cart, we are touching it, applying a force into it to move it forward. Okay, so these are example of contact forces. Number two example is, imagine this is a car. What is the car? So this is the car. So imagine this is the car. Push a car. Push a car. We are applying a force on the car to move it. We are touching the car to move it. So when you push a car, you touch this one, then touch, and that is example of contact forces. Another example of contact forces is rocket. Example, this is the rocket. Example, this is the rocket. One. This is the rocket. So when we use the rocket to hit a shuttlecock, this is the shuttlecock. One. We are applying a force on the rocket to hit. This type of contact is known as applied force. This is, do you call that? Applied force. This applied force is another example of contact forces. Okay, the fourth example is frictional force. So, frictional force. Example, this is the ball. This is the floor. So when this is opposite direction, frictional force go there, and frictional force is go there, and this is direction of the rolling ball. The direction of the rolling ball is here. So here. So this is direction. Direction going there. Frictional force is there. So this is another example of contact forces. A ball that rolls on the floor will eventually stop. This is because the frictional force that is acting on the ball, frictional force act in the opposite direction. Means opposite. Frictional force here, and the direction of the ball is here. So opposite direction of the movement, causing moving object to slow down, eventually stop. stop the ball. This is the fractional direction of the ball. That are example of contact forces. Another number 2 is non-contact forces. This is no touching. So, this is example. Gravitational force is an example of non-contact force. This force pulls all the things to center of the earth. So, this is example of non-contact forces. Gravitational force. This is the example of gravitational force. Our Earth. Our Earth, there's a force. Our Earth, there's a gravitational force. Next is number 2 example is non-contact forces. Is an example of non-contact forces is gravitational force. When a ball is thrown in the air, when the ball is thrown into the air, gravitational force will act on the ball and pull it down. The ball is going down. This force is not in contact with the ball to pull it. So, this is example of non-contact forces. Another example is magnet. So, another example is magnet. Example, this is the magnet. This is the ionomer or magnetic. Yan. Without, yan, this one, you see? See, this one? Okay. So, the magnetic object is here. So, this is an example of non-contact forces. Another example of non-contact force is magnetic force. When a magnet is placed on a magnetic object, this is magnetic object, and this is the magnet is placed near magnetic object, this one. Like iron nails, the iron nails will be pulled toward the magnet. And this one. Exert exhaustive force on the ioners without touching, no touching. So this is example of non-contact forces. Another is when two magnets of the same poles is North Pole and North Pole. North Pole, this is not magnetic. This is not magnetic. So when the two magnets of the same poles are placed near each other, they will push each other away. The magnets push each other without touching, no touching each other. So these are example of non-contact forces. So now I hope you understand our topic for today. So please open your book, page number 43 and answer. 43. And answer contact force or non-contact force. These are this is contact force or non-contact force. This one, the ball is slow down. This is frictional. Then the ball. Then this one, magnet. Number 5 is magnet. And number 6 is toy. So I hope you understand our topic for today. Thank you and goodbye. See you again next time.